some introductions for the members that you have before you. So in the room, you have Graham Burns and Councillor Jane Evans. And online, you have Sarah Elding and Rachel Nucky who have joined us. And my name is Jeff Parsons. I'm the presiding member. And we are assisted by members of Council's administration tonight. We have Aaron Curtis, our assessment manager, Tom, one of our senior planning officers, and Chris, who's assisting us with governance and minutes. So good evening to you. We just have a few administrative items we need to move through on our agenda, and then we will come to our first item for consideration this evening. So members, all members are present. There are no apologies. The confirmation of the minutes, the last meeting was held on the 6th of May. I think all members have received a copy of those minutes. Is someone prepared to move that they be adopted, please? Graham, you're moving, thank you. Is there a seconder? A seconder, Rachel, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand, and perhaps Sarah just say yes, given that I can't see you. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So that is unanimous, thank you. Now, is there any business arising from the minutes that any member would like to raise? No. All right. Is there any declaration of interest by any member of the panel? No. Okay. Now, just before I do get to our item, I had a quick conversation with Chris before the meeting that on the recording of our meeting last month there was a little trouble hearing some of the members when they spoke. So it's just a reminder to us all to please make sure we use our microphones while we're speaking, and obviously for those of you online, we'll be able to hear you through the recording. So that's all good. But when we're here in the room, we just need to remember to use our microphones. So now the development assessment item for consideration this evening. This is an application by Tony Wilson and Sharon Cunningham in the established neighbourhood zone for the construction of dwelling alterations and additions, decking, change of use to a combined tourist accommodation and dwelling use. Was performance assessed and publicly notified. And Tom, you were the assessing officer for the application. Is there anything you'd like to take us through as an introduction, please?
Thank you. Yeah, so the application, since it was notified, I guess there's been some refining of how the total building is to be used. So I guess in response to the reps received and through that process, the applicant has confirmed the additions, dwelling additions, are to be used for residential, and the existing house is to be used for tourist accommodation purposes. So just to be clear that's they are separate uses, not like some of the other applications we've had where it's one building being used for separate uses. So that's what this current proposal is for.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. As I said, there were two representations, I think, lodged as part of this application, and one representative has indicated a desire to be heard, which is Emma. Emma, we have you with us? Yes. Obviously, I know we have representatives of the applicant here as well. So I'll just explain a little bit about how this process works, and then I'll invite you to come up and address the panel. So this is really an opportunity for you to obviously address the panel and to speak to the representation, to highlight any key points that you would like the panel to consider in our deliberations. Once all representatives have addressed the panel, then the applicant is given the opportunity to respond. Representatives and applicants have 5 minutes within which to address the panel. Now, I do normally keep track of time. It's just so I can provide procedural fairness to everyone. If you sort of get close to that point, I'll ask you to begin summing up. It's important to note that the panel does have copies of the representations that were lodged and the applicant's response to that. So like I said, this is really a chance to highlight key points. The panel members may have questions of you once you've spoken, so when it's your turn to speak, I'll just invite you to the table just in front of me here with a microphone there for you. And then once you've finished, I'll just check if there are any questions. Often the panel does have more questions for the applicant than the representatives. That's simply because the applicant has detailed knowledge of the proposal and we might need to delve down into that. Once you've spoken, there's no further opportunity to address the panel, but you are welcome to stay in the gallery and observe the decision-making process. It's all open in that respect. The panel's role is not one where we need to mediate between the parties. Our role is one where we use the information that you give us, as well as all the information that's within our documentation, to really make a balanced planning judgment on whether or not the proposal warrants approval. And finally, this process can be daunting if you've never done it before, but there's absolutely no need for it to be. The panel's genuinely interested in what you have to say, so take your time. Feel free to read from notes or just speak freely, whatever you prefer to do. So, all of that said, Emma, happy to invite you up to the table if you like, just here. So when you use your microphone, the members online will be able to hear you as well, which will be excellent. So there should be there's a little button in the centre that you can press and the red light should come on. Yeah, there you go.
That one?
Yeah,
All right.
that's it. So when you're ready, you can
Okay,
take it away.
great. Excellent. Thank you so much for having me here this evening, and obviously to the applicants as well. That's great. My name's Emma, and I'm here representing the owners of 1 Sobel Street, Tanunda. There's just a couple of key things that we just wanted to bring to the panel's attention. You would have seen them in our application, but our key concerns were around the noise level and the management of the stormwater and how that will be addressed. When looking at the drawings, the designs, it's in effect creating two dwellings, so an additional dwelling on the property, which is going to give rise to additional noise levels, and just considering obviously the residents surrounding that property. What wasn't clear, and I put in the application, was whether or not this property was going to be used as, or being let out as just a single Airbnb, so to one group with about 10 people being there on the property at once, or let out to 2 separate groups at the same time, which obviously will be more noise as well, or if the property is going to have the applicants actually residing there and letting out the other half of the property. So we're really seeking clarification around that. In the application, I listed out some noise mitigation suggestions that we put forward, and that might actually help with reducing the noise. The other concern that we had was around the stormwater, and that if these works were to go ahead, we wanted a guarantee that the actual stormwater would be connected correctly, and that we're not going to get that runoff coming through the adjacent properties as has happened in the past. So that's what we're really seeking clarification on. I don't have anything else to talk to it, but did you have questions of me of my application? Well, the owner's application, I should say. I'm representing them. Thanks.
No, sure. Thanks, Emma. Members, do you have any questions you would like to pose?
Very, very quickly.
Yes, yeah.
More by way of clarification, Emma. The points you raise are valid points, by the way, in my opinion. It's probably best for the applicant, when the applicant steps up, to answer some of those questions. My question to you is, have you read the report that's before all of us and available online?
Which
the
report?
the planning report and the recommendation that's been prepared by the staff in relation to this application.
Is that in follow-on to what I've already submitted afterwards?
Yes, it came out with the agenda about a week ago.
Yeah, so I wasn't provided a copy of the agenda.
You have or haven't?
I have not been provided
You
a
just
copy.
simply go online. It's
So,
available online.
well,
So you
I
haven't
was
read
not,
it.
So I was not aware
No,
that an agenda
that's okay.
or that there was a response already made to it. So that details
Yes.
was not made available to me.
The
at
issue
all.
of stormwater, I'm raising it only because
Yeah,
the
good.
issue of stormwater is raised in the planner's report
Great.
and in attachments to that report as well. So I don't want to jump the gun by
Yeah.
going into the detail of that, but if you haven't read the agenda, perhaps bear in mind that those details might emerge
Yep.
tonight and certainly
Yep.
are available for perusing in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay,
No other
that's
questions.
Great. I wasn't aware that an agenda was sent out. There was only one piece of paper that was attached to the information that told me about tonight, and that was a 2-page document. That was it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Emma. I know normally we can ask the staff for some advice on this, but normally representatives receive some correspondence advising them of the meeting date and time and the agenda, but
was
we can ask the staff about that
Good.
momentarily. So, and members online, Rachel, Sarah, did you have any questions for Emma? No, Rachel, you're shaking your head. Sarah, did you have any?
No, I don't, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. All right, and I was going to raise something on stormwater, but I think Graham's touched on what I
Good.
wanted to raise. So thank you, Emma. The points were very clear. Like I said, you're welcome to retake your seat and listen to the decision-making process. So
Great.
thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Now, I'm happy to invite the applicant up to respond. So Tony and Sharon, I assume you'll be both coming up to speak. It's all right, I might just get you to just press the button so the members online can definitely hear you. Yeah.
Yep, thanks for having us. Just let me get my papers in line. So, the object of the exercise in drawing up plans for the additions to the existing building was that the front of the building, which is heritage in a heritage village, would stay as is and would be available for people who wanted to stay there on a short-term stay basis. And additions at the rear were deliberately made to look different to the building at the front, so that it was distinguished in time and place and would provide accommodation for probably the owner, but certainly a residential of some description. Sharon's not entirely sure exactly what's happening. Sort of depends on the meeting tonight as well. But I think she would like to move into the rear and then have the front section as bed and breakfast, short-term stay. Generally only weekends, days.
Yes, we haven't made that decision yet because we don't know if we can do it yet. So we're not sure. So it'll either be us or my daughter, who is the manager. So
Just to address the stormwater issue, firstly, council are going to force us to do something for stormwater anyway. We don't get away with putting in any applications without somebody saying, well, where's the stormwater going? And do we have plans for how to manage it? And so there are some details in the site plan that show where the stormwater's going. There's an existing tank on site. That would be used to water the gardens, as well as a slowdown for the water getting out of the site. We're concerned that the neighbours are having stormwater issues. We're not sure if they come from us or not. Very hard to tell where stormwater comes, but
the actual dwelling does even slope down and go into the
block
yard.
slopes down that way.
But we have already addressed that. We've got another pit now, so we've already done the stormwater off of the veranda. Again, so we've got 2 lots now.
And overflow from the tank will obviously go out to the street.
Yep.
Water table, as it does in most other developments like this. Council asked about noise and how that might be mitigated. The B&B's been operating in the front for 6 years now, and Sharon's never had a complaint. There's never been a complaint lodged as far as we know
Not one.
about noise, and so we don't think it should be a problem. We do recognise that there are a few more people on site, but it shouldn't add to the amount of noise because of the nature of the short stay. People tend to go out and see the sights and not necessarily stay on the property for long periods. But having said that, we're certainly happy to comply with the time periods that have been suggested, 10:30 to 8 and 12 p.m. to 8 a.m, where guests will be, guests will be asked to be quiet. And that'll be part of the booking procedure when people sign up to go and stay at the B&B. And also to that length, booking, numbers of visitors have been, we're agreed that we should limit them to 6. Mention has been made of, again, noise and fences, and my client's quite happy to discuss fencing and possibly changing fences over to 2-metre good neighbour fences if that's what's required. It may not be necessarily, because we're proposing other things like screening to the rear deck, and there's a lot of vegetation in the garden which should screen the view across from to the north from the bedroom 2 windows and the living area. So we're not of the opinion that that is a problem, but obviously if somebody thinks it's a problem, then it possibly is. So there's certainly, we're happy to have the discussion with the neighbours about that.
Yeah, I think the deck position has probably raised the thoughts of noise, but it is a private bedroom deck. It is not a party deck. It's just outside the bedroom. So there's not going to be any noise.
The wood heater issue was raised. The wood heater doesn't get a lot of use. The house has original fireplaces, and they're prepared ahead of time for clients to use.
There's only
So
one.
that may be where the issue of smoke is coming from. The fire pit on site has been used only a couple of times in the last 3 or 4 years. So we're not sure that that's the problem, but we're quite happy to take it on board, and if there's something we need to do about it, then we're happy to do that.
Sorry, Tony, I've given you about 7 minutes now, so if you've got anything else to say, can I just ask you to begin summing up, and then I'll ask the panel if they've got questions.
Oh, I'm happy to sum up. I'm sorry. I think I've covered everything anyway. So we have to comply with council regulations and the building code. So a lot of the things that neighbours have mentioned come under that, and we end up having to do it anyway. And Sharon is quite happy to manage the B&B responsibly, the B&B and the living area at the back.
It is also a non-party house. It's stated we don't allow parties. So the noise is, like we said, we haven't had a complaint yet, not one.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Thank you.
I'll ask you to stay
I'll stay.
seated, just because there might be
Okay.
questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
maybe I'll just come to the members in the room first. Questions? Members? Yeah.
Same question that I asked Emma, who spoke earlier. Have you read the agenda, the report by the planner, and the
I did have a
recommendation and the attachments to the report?
I did have a read of most of it. I'm not certain that I read every one.
Oh, no. I'm not asking you've read every page and paragraph and so forth, but you read it and you understand that some of the issues that you've raised have been addressed in the
Yes,
planner's report.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Jane, do you have any questions at this point?
Thank you, through the chair. No, look, I don't. I think a lot of my thoughts have been addressed by the applicant's presentation and the representor. And when I look at the recommendations and conditions that are in place, I think that pretty much addresses everything that's been raised today. I don't think there's anything outstanding really that is of concern unless my other colleagues have any other questions as well. Thank you.
Sarah, did you have any questions you wanted to pose?
Do you want to let Rachel go first, because I'm literally in the car park?
All right, excellent. All right, we'll see you momentarily. And yes, Rachel.
2 seconds.
Rachel, did you have any questions?
Okay. Yep, happy to go. So my question is,
can legally refuse to serve.
along
Turn
the
the radio
rear
off.
boundary, can I understand what the height of that existing fence is? Because I couldn't see that annotated on any of the plans. I kind of could see on the photos, it looked to me to be about 1.6, like it's a fairly low fence. Could you confirm what the height of that fence is for me?
That's correct. I was out there today and it is about that.
Right, okay. Would you be prepared to increase the height of that? I guess what I was kind of looking at was that back end of the building, obviously it's raised a fair bit, and you are coming quite close to that rear boundary. And my other question to you was that landscaping that is across there. The site plan says that landscaping is to be trimmed or removed. Now, which one is it? Because obviously that there's only like a handful of kind of like pine trees, I think, or something like some sort of a pine.
Yep.
And obviously, other than that, there's not a lot of other landscaping across that back that's of what I would consider any aesthetic value. So I was just, I guess, wondering whether or not you would be open to A, looking at increasing the fence height, and B, putting some additional landscaping across the back end adjacent to the fence line to kind of buffer the built form.
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry, just before you
Sorry.
answer, can I just get you to pause momentarily because just for Rachel, for your benefit, Sarah's trying to get in the building and just hasn't been able to do it. So Jane's just gone to let her in. So I just don't want any members to miss your response. So
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
no, that's all right. We have everyone back in the room. So if you'd like to answer that question, thank you.
Okay, I'm absolutely willing to make that fence higher. I would have anyway. In fact, I don't really mind how high it goes, but I would like it to be not as stated in the first letter that we pay for it all. I think usually you go halves, so I'm quite happy to make it taller and whatever. Also, we haven't started on any, we still don't know if we can do anything, hence why I haven't beautified the back. There'll be all sorts down there, and we will be trimming those trees, making it look better at the bottom. We could take them out, but I think that would be a bit sad. But yes, we will be screening, we'll be doing all sorts with vegetation all down there, and I'm ready to go soon and plant trees and do all sorts if I get the go-ahead.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment? We originally had a garage at the end of the driveway, which we have subsequently removed because the Highways Department don't think that the use we were suggesting was appropriate. So there may be some confusion about what the landscaping is doing, because that was part of the mix as well at the time. So we removed that, and we possibly should be putting more landscaping on there.
Thank you. Was that all your questions, Rachel?
Yeah, Yeah, that was the nuts and bolts of the questions that I had for the applicant. So thank you for clarifying that.
Sure. Sarah, now that you're in the room and settled, do you have any questions?
I do, and my apologies. I know it's a bit bit rattling, probably for me more so, but coming in late. Thank you. I listened to you as I was driving. I have a couple of questions. The first being with regards to the separation of the private dwelling versus the tourist accommodation. I didn't notice anything on the plans in terms of fencing or screening to separate those two uses. Is it your intent to do that? And if so, what sort of treatment are you proposing?
Well, we honestly haven't got that far because we don't know if we're going ahead yet. But we will be separating and making a look, you know. to
I think we
whatever
can-
need.
I think we can assume that the garden adjacent to the bedroom 2 and the lounge room will be separated off slightly from the rest of the property so that the short-term guests have access to the spa pool and that area, and the area behind that would be for,
Yeah, that's already separated and it's already got a fence there, but we will be bettering it.
I do have a second question. In relation to car parking, I know you're restricting it to 6 guests with potentially 2 occupiers or potential for occupiers. That's potentially 5 cars on site. Have you mapped out the car parking? There was some indication of that, but when you start loading cars behind one another, then it gets a little bit tricky. So is that something that you've worked with, like turning templates and looked at? There is mention of a car park for a person with disability. How does that work? Because nothing was marked specifically on the plans. There was no car parking or car park plan. So I'm just curious to understand what the intent is in that respect.
we've had extensive conversations with a rep from the Highways Department about this, about parking at the front and the back, and at her suggestion that the rear parking has been located where it's shown. Room for 2 cars there, probably room for another 2 if we really pushed it. But we're trying to limit the number of vehicles on site. It's not necessarily a good thing to have lots of cars stacked up front and back.
We haven't seemed to have any yet. There is a lot of parking at the front there, and it's all worked really well. There's at least 4 there, and then even like right up the driveway, there's room for lots. But we've never had it like that. There's generally 2 or 3 cars. I don't think I've ever seen more than 3 cars there ever yet.
So that section, so Perch can hear me. The section at the back, is that behind the dwelling? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find that.
Behind the existing dwelling?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And accessible parking?
And can I just ask briefly, I know some of this is in your documentation, but just in terms of your booking procedure, is it all online and you have warnings and so forth about, as you said, about party house and what can happen in terms of bans and so forth if people, break that? Or just interested in how your booking procedure works and how what you're encouraging, I guess, in terms of occupant behaviour.
Yep. Well, we've found that we've got a pretty high price point. We've not had ever a single incident or trouble yet. We just haven't. It does not really attract it's a wine region, and we just tend to get a lot of business people and a lot of families. Yeah. People on holidays and ready to relax, and I don't know, we just haven't seemed to. We did stay because I used to have another B&B. There's a definite no party house, but my daughter manages it at the moment. So as far as all the writing up, I'm not overly savvy, but it's a non-party house, and we haven't had any trouble.
I think that is all of our questions.
Jeff, I've got one more.
so-
Sorry, I had my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, I apologise. It's hard to look in three places at once, but yes, Rachel,
I'm
you first, then I'll
sorry.
come to Graham. Yep.
Okay, I just had a question further to what Sarah had asked about the parking. Now, obviously, disabled access as well. Can I just clarify, is there an existing ramp? I think I saw it on the plan, but I just wanted to clarify, is there a ramp, disabled access, going up into the house?
There sure is, and I have right
Okay.
next to me Tony, who is in a wheelchair, and he's been there many times, so.
Okay, cool. And so my question then was that obviously one of those parking spaces should be an accessible parking space. So obviously it would be wise to have that one that's closest to the ramp. And ideally that should be appropriately annotated on the plan, because we need to make sure that obviously that is available. So I just wanted to talk that through so there were no surprises.
Sure.
I think what Rachel's asking is, if necessary, would you be prepared to
Yes.
amend the plan, perhaps as part of a reserve matter, that the disabled parking space be adequately shown on the plans and demonstrated that it can function?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
There's a ramp that leads up to the deck. It is usable.
Yep.
I've been up it
Yeah.
several times.
That's
And-
good to know.
and-
Thank you.
And into the house as well. So it's wide enough, it's at the right gradient, I believe. Obviously, I'm in a chair, but there are other people who are a little bit more disabled than me that might find it difficult, but that's always the case.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And Graham?
Thank you. It's more of a follow-up question. The three bedrooms of proposed accommodation in the existing dwelling, one would assume three couples. Is that the intention? You don't have to be specific about that, but is that what it's designed for? Basically for three couples,
Well, it is, but
or a
it's-
family with kids?
Yep.
Who is the target market?
Well, it's not really a target market. It's just anybody who books. But it's a lot of two people, a lot of just two people. And then there'll be a lot of three people. At the moment, we're having four people, a lot of four people. So there's never any rhyme or reason. It's sort of all over the place as far as that goes. But we would, of course, rather it be three couples than we have six people when it's more.
The question relates to the parking, which has
Right.
been raised by
Yep.
others. For
Yep.
example, if it's three couples,
Yeah, hence it's
unrelated
never
couples,
been more than three cars.
that would be three cars,
Hence,
wouldn't it?
yep.
But if it's a couple,
Yep.
partners with children in one other room, or maybe both other rooms, that would be one car for three rooms.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So that's what I'm getting at.
Yep.
But you're saying, well, it could be that scenario, or it could be three
Yep,
couples,
but it's never
three
been more than
cars.
three cars yet, not yet,
Yeah.
never.
And you wouldn't expect it to be
Well, if
either.
you,
I mean, I wouldn't either if
sometimes
it's
we'll
three
have a couple
couples,
of
three
girls that
cars.
will come and they'll be together, they might sleep together.
Yeah, but no,
yeah.
understood, no. And I just on the question of parking, I did read somewhere in the documents that a covered parking space is under consideration, I think were the words used. Is there a plan as part of this proposal to...
Been removed.
It-
There was a garage at the end of the driveway that we were putting in. Yes, yes. Sharon has a recreational vehicle that she wanted to park in there, and they said it's not suitable for the site. It's not suitable to get in and out of that driveway.
Which it actually is, because I've done it before. We go park in there, we back in, and that's it. But they said no, and that was it, so we just took it out.
So who said no?
The transport, what were they, Tony? Transport.
Department
Department.
of Industry.
Mm.
Department
Yeah.
of Main Roads, I would have called them.
Mm.
Transport, yes.
Yep.
And there is an approval from them in the documentation. Two-page thing, which is very hard to spot because it doesn't have any identifier on it that it's from them.
All right, I think that covers all of our questions, members. So thank you. You are also welcome to rejoin your seats, and we'll proceed to debate the item now and make a decision. So thank you. Now, members, do you have any questions you'd like to ask Council's administration? Aaron or Tom?
My question is related to stormwater, and I know the property relatively well. I popped out there on the weekend, and of course it was flooded. That property next door looks relatively new. It's had quite significant landscaping. You might not be aware, so you might be able to answer the question, stormwater considered in the redevelopment of that landscaping? Because it just seems like a lot of pooling in those photos that were demonstrated, and I couldn't see downpipes in that shed. Obviously they've got a pool, which, but there seems to be a natural flow of water in those photos. It just, I'm just wondering whether stormwater was looked at that, a part of, that development.
Yeah, thank you. I might just ask for clarity around which property you're referring to. I've got the image up on the screen there just to...
That's the one to the north.
So you're talking about at 110?
Yes.
Yeah, so nothing that comes to mind in terms of recent applications. I think there may have been some refurbishment of the dwelling. There's been a pool in the backyard and the shed. But I don't recall that we've had a recent application for that site. So, and whether that's had any contribution to the stormwater issues in the locality. It's also noting that I guess 104 has quite a large amount of impervious area as well. That is noted as well. I guess the way we looked at this was, yes, there seems to have been some existing stormwater issues in this particular locality which the representatives have raised. The applicant has indicated they've already done some stormwater on site to improve the situation. And I guess we're mindful from point of view of staff is that the applicant, yes, has an obligation to deal with their stormwater as part of this development, but insofar as trying to retrospectively address stormwater issues in the area, we need to also be mindful that I guess we can't overstep what might be an existing situation or existing issue. So that's sort of how we've approached it, but there is as you'll see in the recommendation, a reserve matter that requests further stormwater design for the development, which is standard practice and we think is appropriate.
Rachel, sorry, did you have your hand up? Oh, maybe
I didn't, but I can ask a question if you like.
I've gone the other way now. I'm too keen, but yes, if you have a question to ask, yes, certainly.
All I just was going to ask the officer was just, is there any signage associated with this application? Because obviously I couldn't get out to look at the site, but is there any existing signage, or do they intend to have any? Do you know?
I didn't notice any, and there's none proposed within this application.
Okay.
So,
yeah, cool.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a question for Tom. I just noted in the report that said there were some concerns with the design of the roof and visual impact with the Heritage Advisor, and a modified design should be provided and reviewed. So is that? I bet there's a map or somewhere in there that says that. But if you could just clarify for me what's been done, thank you.
yeah, so as the standard process for building work within our historic areas is, well, in most cases, is to refer to our Heritage Advisor for comment. So I guess what we normally do is we set that off nice and early because we have some timeframes to meet with requesting information and to get it on public notice. So in this case, our advisor came back with some concerns around the roof form, and that was more of a prompt or a trigger to, I guess, review the site ourselves and to kind of, whether agree or disagree with that determination or that advice. We went out to the site, I went out to the site and had a look and noted that the additions are behind the. So, I guess for context, the view that he looks at is the plans on the paper. So the elevations are 2D, two-dimensional, and they kind of show a certain picture. Out on site, the house is very well, like the context of the site is it's angled to the front. The addition at the rear is completely behind the building, and then inset further away from the boundary than the existing dwelling. The roof form, I didn't consider that would be a significant impact, whether it was moved, if there was some slight alteration or not. I didn't think that was going to have a impact on the streetscape character. I didn't think it warranted any further alterations. The view from the street is, I guess, as you're driving along, if you happen to look over at that specific point, but it will be sited behind the existing building. The historic area overlay has provisions around being behind the building facade, and this is further behind the entire building. So in that context, I don't think you can mistake this for being a part of that building, given it is going to be complete new materials and builds. So that's kind of the rationale why we didn't think it was warranted to seek alterations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thanks for that question. I agree with Tom, and I guess just further to that, we also felt that I guess the way the design had incorporated a separate roof line, that was, yes, it's at odds or in contrast with the historic elements of the front of the home, but it is a common, I guess, architectural approach to have differing roof forms between the old and the new, and given the siding and the contrasting design as articulated by the applicant, I think we felt that it was a fairly good response. But we also wanted to present to you that feedback from the Heritage Advisor, because we don't always, I guess, fully endorse all of the feedback, and it is the role of the planner to distill all the feedback and present all the information and make our recommendation.
If I could just follow on with that, the points that you've just made, Aaron, as well as you, Tom. When I've been out there, and I've been out there today and have a close look around at the site and the surroundings, the area in question, when we're talking about this extension, won't be seen from the street because of the density of the landscaping that exists on that side. And I don't think there's any proposal to remove that landscaping. This time of the year, it's still in leaf, so I assume it's evergreen. So my view is that the extensions are going to be very, very hard to see from Murray Street in any event, because they are, for all the reasons you've said, set well back from the road, but also screened effectively from the road by the dwelling that exists, as well as the landscaping that exists to one side.
Thank you. Any further questions for the staff members? No. Yes, Jane?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll make this fast. Do you think it's reasonable to impose a further condition that a higher fence be installed to a certain requisite height with the neighbour fence, as it's been discussed? And I just wasn't sure whether that was warranted a condition or just to be left to negotiate. Thank you.
From my perspective, I don't think the development will significantly change in any way. If the panel deems it to be necessary, then so be it. But from what I can tell, I think the design that they've done, the privacy treatments and all that type of stuff, kind of meets. So, yep.
I know too, we as a panel, we need to be careful about potentially redesigning a proposal as well. Ultimately, we have to assess what is put in front of us, and we have obviously the applicants given an indication that they were prepared to consider, and there is a process under the Fencing Act which they can follow in that regard. So ultimately, up to the panel. I know Rachel sort of indicated that earlier, but perhaps we'll get to that as we debate. So. Members, you now obviously have all the information in front of you. You heard from the representative and the applicant, and have a very good quality detailed report from the staff. And that recommendation is that planning consent is granted subject to reserved matters and conditions. What are your views in respect of this one?
I'll lead off if you like, Jeff. Look, I share your comments. I think the report itself has been very well prepared. I think the application has also been well documented. I'm satisfied that the conditions, the reserve matters and conditions that have been recommended address any outstanding concerns. So the only thing that I think needs to be addressed, and it hasn't been to date, is the provision of disabled access. There's no question in my mind that provision can be made for a disabled parking space at the front of the existing dwelling, close to the ramp. Perhaps that matter could be included in as a condition if it's not already, but I think with that matter addressed, the application is deserving of consent in accordance with the recommendation.
Thank you.
I'm
Rachel.
happy to go next.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, look, I concur. I have no problems with the use fundamentally. You currently have a dwelling that has extensive curtilage around the building, and you are having an addition going to the rear that is coming in closer proximity to that rear boundary than, you know, what it currently is. And I guess my only concern was that because of the raised level, because of the fall of the land, that going in closer proximity and those units to the back are relatively close to that fence. The fence is quite, well, it's not a 1.8 fence, it's about 1.6, and there's not a lot of landscaping, and those back ends of the addition are fairly blank, like there's only a high level window. So I guess what I was looking at it more so was from an amenity and appearance perspective. So I felt that it would be appropriate to look at providing some additional fencing, like a higher fence, and some landscaping across that back end to help soften, I guess, the back end and that view, because it is closer than the 4 metres. I'm not hung up on numbers, but I just think because it will sit a bit proud over a 1.6 fence, I felt that based on some of the representatives' concerns that there could be some additional consideration put into this design to kind of negate those amenity impacts to the built form. That was really where I was coming from. I'm very pleased that there is a reserve matter on the stormwater design, because I did flag that early on in my reading as an issue, and I think it's really important to make sure that an appropriate design is come up for and looked at holistically for that site. I would like to see the disabled parking and access clearly kind of delineated. I think that's really important, and signed if appropriate. What else did I have here? Oh, look, and just with what I was talking about with the landscaping and the fencing, look, I welcome other panel members' comments. I could be on my own here, but I would probably like to see a reserve matter that, you know, a landscaping concept for along the rear boundary, incorporating fencing and some plantings to offset the amenity impacts and provide a bit of a visual buffer be provided. That's kind of where I was coming from. But other than that, I think the use is appropriate, and I don't have concerns about the noise. I think we can control that through the Local Nuisance and Litter Control Act should it become an issue. Behavioural issues are a police matter. I don't have anything further to add.
Thank you. Jane or Sarah, you have anything? Not obliged to, but just if you have any comments, I wanted to give you the opportunity.
Thank you, through the chair. I concur with Rachel's suggestion about the reserve matter with the visual amenity and the vegetation and the fencing, if at all a possibility to consider. But I'm in your hands there with that one. Thank you.
Well, I concur as well. I think, it doesn't have to be an extensive landscape plan. It can just basically differentiate between those new fencing treatments, mark up where you want that displayed car park for accessible car park, where that ramp and that access is, just so it is marked up on a plan. I don't think that, it needs to be a full landscape plan. The drawings that we've provided are fine, just need to be slightly updated. I don't think it will have any impact to the overall design. And I'm really glad that there's an extensive reserve matter on stormwater. I am very familiar with that area. There are some lingering flooding issues, which, forecasted to only get worse and with climate change. So I'm really pleased that that was quite a detailed reserve matter. And I think in terms of that reserve matter, whether we add some wording to that, but not limited to or something in case there are additional issues found. I did question if there's a subsurface watercourse through there. There's been a few that have cropped up lately through some flooding work. So, I just don't want a whole council to only being restricted to those requirements as well. So it's just a couple of words embedded in that first paragraph about the stormwater plan.
No, thank you. And look, I have similar views, members. I was satisfied it wasn't seriously a variance and didn't undermine the values of the character district. I was satisfied the land use was appropriate. I kind of think in a main street sort of environment like this, that's where you might want some sort of tourist accommodation use as well, despite it being in the established neighbourhood zone. I certainly agree and endorse the staff's comments earlier about the heritage in terms of the advice they get from the Heritage Advisor, which is advice, and they need to interpret that against the code, and I think they've done that well in this instance. And the advice around the contrast between old and new as well, that's a quite a contemporary sort of design approach for dealing with items of heritage, and particularly as this item isn't individually listed in any way, but it is in the historic character area, so or the historic area overlay, sorry. So it's important that those factors play into the assessment, but I think the right approach has been taken. I agree. I thought the reserve matter wording for stormwater was very important and done very well. Thought it was very, very thorough, and that will allow for good consideration of stormwater impacts. And I thought overlooking was relatively well addressed from the deck with the privacy screen and so forth, but understand the comments that have been made. And I think right now our assessment manager is drafting another reserved matter which talks about that landscaping plan. I'm not sure if you can see that on your screen or not, Rachel, but
I guess just through the chair, I'm just finalising some amendments to the recommendation. Once the panel, I guess, has finished deliberating, you may want to go through the first recommendations 1 and 2, and then get to the third recommendation.
an excellent reminder of something I frequently forget, Graham.
God, I'd just like to make an additional comment about this matter of landscaping and fencing, or at least the space between the proposed dwelling at the rear and the rear boundary. I think, to be honest, we don't need landscaping and a new fence along that boundary. This is a dwelling. This is not part of the tourist accommodation component of the development. But I think landscaping along that strip between the proposed dwelling and the boundary is warranted, including the retention of the mature vegetation that exists along part of that boundary. But I don't think a new fence to whatever height it might become is required here. The fence, from the visuals that we've seen before us tonight, the fence looks to be in reasonably good condition, but it's not excessively high. But equally, the proposed extensions don't have an outlook in that direction either. I just think if that space is landscaped, and the matter of landscaping, I think, is being addressed as we speak, I think that's as far as we need to go without concerning ourselves with the fence. Bearing in mind that if there's a fence, and listening to what's been said by reading the documents, a suggestion by the applicants that if there's a fence required, that they'd wouldn't want to have to pay the full cost. They'd like to go 50-50 with the owners on the other side. That might be problematic. But leaving that issue aside, I just don't think it's necessary to raise the height of that fence.
Sure. All right. Thank you. What we might do, it sounds as if we're all in agreement with the general direction that we're heading. So perhaps, like Aaron suggested, maybe what I'll first do is I'll ask if there's someone prepared to move recommendation 1 and 2, and then we will get into perhaps the details of the conditions and reserve matters. So our first recommendation is that it's not seriously at variance. Is someone prepared to move that?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll take Sarah as the mover and Rachel as the seconder. All those in favour? That's carried. And then our next recommendation is that the proposal doesn't undermine the values of the Character Preservation District. Jane, thank you. And is there a seconder? Graham, thank you. Share it around equally. All those in favour? Yes, that's unanimous. Carried. So our third recommendation now, which at the moment is to grant planning consent. Aaron, can I just ask you, just for Rachel's benefit as well?
Yeah, so Rachel, you won't be able to see this on the screen because I'm unable to share on your screen, but I can read it out so you have clarity as to what's being presented as an amended recommendation. So there's two additional reserve matters that are included. Recommendation reserve matter 3. So it's a landscaping plan. So the applicant shall submit a landscaping plan incorporating the following within the rear yard between the dwelling addition and the side and rear boundaries. Retention, so this is then part A, retention of existing mature trees. Part B, planting of new trees, shrubs and ground covers to soften the appearance of the dwelling addition. C, species types. D, pot sizes. And E, maintenance methods. And then reserve matter 4, a final site plan showing an accessible car parking space pursuant to Australian Standard 2890. So they are the two reserve matters, and then there's two additional conditions which are now numbered 11 and 12. So the condition 11 is basically requiring that the landscaping shall be completed and maintained. So all landscaping shown on the landscaping plan or authorised pursuant to the reserve matter shall be completed prior to commencement of use. All landscaping shall be maintained in good health and condition at all times thereafter. And condition 12, an accessible car parking space shall be provided in accordance with Australian Standard 2890. So they're the two additional conditions which basically reinforce the reserve matters.
Can I just suggest that condition where you talked about the plantings being maintained in good condition at all times, could you put with any dead, diseased or dying plants being replaced where to the satisfaction of council? Yep. And just with that reserve matter, I take Graham's point on the fencing. Could we maybe just, instead of nominating fencing, could we just get them to show on the landscape plan details of fencing? So just to say what fencing is going to actually stay there. So if it's the existing fence at 1.6, can they just show that?
Okay.
That it's existing fencing at 1 point. So let's keep it open. So, and maybe say, to the satisfaction of the assessment manager. So then it's open. Do you know what I'm saying? So we're not actually...
So yeah, I've included then a part F, existing and or proposed upgraded fencing.
Yeah. So it's kind of not saying that we definitely want it, but if they're prepared to,
Yep. Thank you.
And Aaron, sorry, did you have any comments about Sarah's suggested wording for the stormwater reserve matter? Do you think there's enough scope?
So sorry, what was the comment about the...
The comment was just whether or not that reserve matter gives enough scope for anything else that may arise as part of the stormwater consideration. So if you discover there's some sort of subterranean watercourse or something like that might need some further addressing, does the reserve matter as it's drafted give you enough scope, or do you need additional wording? I think that was the query.
Yeah. Look, I think it would. I guess you're stating whether, or suggesting whether, if there's any unknown situation that be considered. So I guess I can suggest that there be some words to that effect.
Can I just say, would that not, just where my mind's at, speaking out loud, when a stormwater design is done, So when you actually get a stormwater engineer to go out and do it, obviously they'll say they found something. They'll obviously design the system to cater for whatever they found. So it's kind of inherently already kind of in that reserve matter. Do you know what I'm saying? Because what you've asked is for a stormwater concept to be with all of those points. So if they go out and design something, one would think that the engineer would do all their due diligence and look at the existing scenario, pre and post development flows, etc., and actually design it. So do we need to safeguard it? I'm just putting it out there, like,
Yeah,
is it necessary?
I've just come up with a Part F. Any other site considerations that impact stormwater management for the development are considered and addressed.
Yeah, yep.
Sorry, Graham, did you want to?
Well, to address Rachel's concern, I think the lead-in sentence to the reserve matter number 2 says, to the reasonable satisfaction of the assessment manager. Does that, Rachel, satisfy your concern?
Yeah. Like I think that that's covered. Do you know what I mean? Like I think we've covered off on all aspects of it. So I think we're pretty watertight.
Pun intended, yes. Yeah.
I didn't even mean that. There you go.
All right. Well, we're suggesting we'll leave Part F in there as Aaron has drafted, but noting that there was some scope within the reserve matter in any event. All right, members. So it appears as if we've reached a final position, I think, which is now that we have a recommendation that incorporates that Part F into Reserve Matter 2. There's also Reserve Matters 3 and 4 and some additional conditions. If all members are satisfied, is someone prepared to move that? Yes, Graham, you're moving. Thank you. And then Rachel, I think your hand was up, so you're seconding. Thank you. All those in favour, just raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. So for the benefit of those who have joined us, the application has received planning consent subject to the satisfaction of those reserve matters and obviously complying with the various conditions. You're likely to still require building consent and development approval before you can get underway and to satisfy those reserve matters. So if you have any questions about the process from here, best to address those to the staff the next business day. They'll be happy to assist you. So thank you very much for your attendance. We have a couple other administrative items we need to move through, so you're welcome to either stay with us or depart at this point. So thank you. Probably best to ask Tom. I'm sure he'll be happy to assist you. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So, members, this brings us to, I think, if I'm not skipping over sections of the agenda, our next administrative item for consideration, which is under other business, which is the operating and meeting procedures. Aaron, did you want to say anything in respect to this?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess this report and the next report, which relates to delegations, they're presented to you for information and for noting, but they also give, I guess, context to the current sort of framework that we're working with in around those operating procedures and then the delegations. So these operating procedures are the current form that they exist in, and I've identified some areas where the panel may wish to suggest further amendments in relation to, I guess, good governance and business improvement. So I guess we look for where there's opportunities to improve what we do and I guess assist in the good function and administration of the panel. So I've highlighted in the report some areas where I think the operating meeting procedures could be considered for amendments, and subject to feedback, I'd propose to bring back a report with amendments to the operating meeting procedures, and I guess that equally applies to the next report in relation to delegations, which I can speak to further in when we get to that report. Happy to take any questions.
Right, members, do you have any questions or comments in respect to this one? Graham?
Only because I've had first-hand experience with the first point that you've raised, Aaron, on page 83, the deputy presiding member. I think that's very, very worthwhile. Without going through the history of my involvement as an acting presiding member last year, I just think it makes the issue clearer and more streamlined if that matter is resolved at the outset. So I fully support that first point. I don't want to talk about the other points that you've raised, but I suspect I would be supportive of those other amendments that you've listed in on page 83, 84 of your of the agenda, Aaron.
Yeah, I had very similar views. Other members have any on the... Jane?
Just very briefly, I was really happy. I mean, it's written here quite clearly that we're now being live recorded as per the condition of appointment of members to the BAP. So that will be a great assistance, I think, in general with our community, referencing and resourcing our discussions and considerations as we debate these matters. So I think that's a really positive thing. Thank you.
No, all good. Aaron, this report's just being received, so I assume the next step from here is that we'd received a draft amended version for our consideration endorsement. Yep. All right, members, if we don't have... yep.
So the other thing that I might suggest is that in the updated terms of reference the council endorsed when they went out for the expression of interest for the new term of the panel, they did want to see an annual report as well. So the other matter, which I haven't mentioned in this report but would be good to suggest incorporating, is that to pick up the annual report. So yeah, so I'd be proposing, I think they're only relatively minor changes, but if there's any other feedback you have between now and sort of the next meeting, welcome any feedback and can then bring that forward for your endorsement.
All right, that sounds good.
Yep.
All right, members, someone prepared to move the report be received? Jane, I think you were first, thank you. And then Sarah, I'll take you as the seconder. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's carried unanimously. So thank you. That brings us to the delegations.
Yeah, so thanks, Jeff. So as I mentioned, the delegations are what exist currently, and these essentially are the delegations that the panel have granted to myself as the assessment manager and then sub-delegated to staff under my position to make decisions in relation to applications for which the panel is the relevant authority, and we provide that quarterly report to give you an indication of what decisions are being made. The current delegations are in place based on the previous term of the panel, and they're largely, I think, working pretty successfully. So on the whole, I don't have any suggestion that there needs to be any great change. I think maybe my only suggestion is in relation to frost fans. There was, as I mentioned in the report, some thought that they were generally more inherently complex and should come to the panel. Whilst I'm comfortable with that and that they don't tend to be highly resource impactful applications, maybe that's overkill when you consider some of these are in areas where there's no dwelling, so they're not receiving any representation. So perhaps the other clause that gives myself the ability to decide when they come to the panel or not might be appropriate, but at the end of the day, it's up to the panel. But I certainly strongly recommend the existing delegation be restricted in relation to council developments. I think that's a good safeguard for council developments that should remain in place. Together with, I guess, the further wording to give clarity for when maybe the applications that should be held with the panel, as opposed to and providing some guidance around what the panel thinks around that, possibly, because otherwise without that guidance, I'm then making a call. Yep.
Members, do we have any thoughts on this one?
The only comment, not so much it's a comment, and it harks back to my days as a planning consultant. I have been involved in many frost fan matters because neighbours, often not horticultural neighbours, but rural living hobby farm neighbours, complain about the frost fans no matter how far away they are. So, but I don't think you're suggesting that they should be shut out of the process by any means, but I just make the comment that the ones I've been dealing with as a planning consultant have been pretty contentious.
I mean, I was just going to say it's good to see that you've put deemed consent is under here as well, because I know that a couple of councils are starting to get a bit tripped up because there's more happening now. The applicants are a bit more savvy now that the DAP has been live for quite some time, and so they are working out that magic little button in the top right-hand corner, I believe. And that does put councils in a difficult position, particularly yourself as assessment manager, to quickly make those decisions. So it's good to see that included to us. It just, I guess, it alleviates those powers from you and you know, any bias that may be perceived and etc. So that was good. I thought that was good inclusion.
Yeah, I agree. No other thoughts? No. In that case, I think you're sort of sensing general agreement to what you've suggested, subject to some consideration of the frost fan issue. So, again, this is a recommendation the report be received. Someone prepared to move that? Rachel, thank you. And Graham, I'll take you as the seconder. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously, which is excellent. Is there any other business from staff? No. Any other business from any members of the panel? No. All right. In that case, our next meeting will be scheduled for whatever the first Tuesday of next month is. So, and I'm happy to declare the meeting closed at 6:12 p.m. So thank you, members, for your attendance and deliberation. Thank you, Rachel, for joining us online and for Sarah for joining us from the car.
Thank you for accommodating me online, because it's been a really tricky week because I couldn't get across to Ireland because of weather, and then I got stuck, and then had all these meetings, and I was like, So thank you for accommodating me online. It is appreciated because I wouldn't have made it.
No problem. And no problem. And thank you to the staff for your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really good reports, Aaron. Like very thorough. Like, it's quite easy to go through stuff and work stuff out most of the time.
Thanks, Rachel. That's great feedback. We're just going to keep it up now, which is the biggest challenge.
Yeah. No, it's good. All right. Okay, I'll see you guys all later.
See you, Rachel.
Bye. Take care.
Fine, over there.
Yes, thank you. Yes.